The Brian Mudd Show is on News Radio 610 WIOD.
Worrying about a sticker on the back of some guy's truck when there's other things in the community that they could probably be worrying about.
Yeah, so the deal here, story, this one's actually out of a neighborhood in Nevada where HOAs, in South Florida especially, no secret, you have some HOAs that I think it's safe to say are a bit overactive. In this particular case, you have an HOA that said, hold on, that's a Trump sticker on your truck? So not something that's like displayed in the yard, on the house even, whatever, but a bumper sticker on a car. They're saying, no, you cannot have that Trump sticker on your car. And that's become a thing. And so, yeah, it's funny. I think back to some of my HOA horror stories. I've shared them in times gone by. When I first moved to South Florida, first neighborhood I lived in, couldn't put the garbage out before 8 o'clock in the morning. Well, I go to work at 3, and my wife traveled for work and was very rarely around during the week. So what do we do? And what brought this up to the association? Well, that's your problem. I guess you'll have to figure something else out to do. That was and so anytime I put the garbage out, I get fined $25 for putting the garbage out because of that circumstance. Next time around, ended up in a condo, Palm Beach, where the association was full of interesting ideas, including banning me from having a Christmas tree because that represented a fire hazard to the rest of the building. I became a vice president of that association before I said never again. And we moved to where we don't have one and never will, thank God. But what about some of these things? Well, here to talk about what goes on with HOAs and how far perhaps they can go and some of the food for thought things. Joining us is David Rauch from ProTech, website protech.com, and it's ProTech Building Solutions. David, what do you make of this deal?
Well, how you doing? Nice to talk to you. It's not unusual. The trash one is a good one, though. I like that one.
Yeah, that was cute.
We maintain 1,000 communities in Southern California and Nevada, and we've seen a lot of weird stuff, too. And the Biden sticker on the back of the truck is not too unusual to have a problem. And I think my mother said to me when I was growing up, if you wear your religion or your politics on your sleeve, you're going to run into trouble and maybe pay a price. And that guy's paying a price right now because he had to hire an attorney to help him out of the mess he's in. And I think that attorney has told him as long as he reduces the size of the bumper sticker on his truck, I think it was 2 by 3 feet, that he'd be okay. So, yeah. Condos, HOAs, also called common interest developments, CIDs or HOAs, homeowners associations, are very highly regulated. There's 48,500 HOAs in Florida. I don't know if you know that, housing 1.5 million Floridians. And 600,000 of those units are over 40 years old. So, and there's 355,000 HOAs in the U.S. So every single HOA, all 48,500 in Florida, have what's called CC&Rs, the covenants, conditions, and restrictions, and that's where you find all those little rules and regulations. And so what?
Yeah. Well, and David, to your point, I mean, we not only have all these associations in our state, but we also, under state law, have granted them a lot of leeway. I mean, under law, they're basically their own government within their communities. And, I think a lot of people, even that come from out of state, maybe with states that don't have laws that are as, perhaps forgiving or, provide as much leeway to associations, kind of surprised by the extent to which, these associations can govern our lives pretty much at their discretion.
That's absolutely true. And that's what people need to realize before they buy into a homeowners association. Because like you said, there's not only the rules and regs that they make up, and those are just 5 normal neighbors that decide to change the rules. But not only do you have that, you have state regulation and federal regulation over top of it. So there's plenty of regulation. And so, again, the thing to do is before you're going to buy into an HOA, your realtor should tell you that, hey, look at the CC&Rs, get a copy of the CC&Rs, read them and understand them, because that's where those rules are. Get a copy of the reserve study and a funding budget for that reserve study, the operating budget. Find out if there's any deferred maintenance, because Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac just set out new guidelines making it a lot more difficult to get financing from them in HOAs because of the collapse of Surfside. And that's a whole nother issue. Actually, that's really the big problem with condos. It's not so much the rules and regulations, but it's the board member dysfunction that you probably know really well, your listeners down in Florida, that happened at Champlain Towers in Surfside. That
Sure.
board member dysfunction
Yep.
is the real problem with HOAs.
No, it's a good point. I mean, that certainly was, I think, a wake-up call for many around here as, the realization, not just that, hey, they might be overbearing or maybe they spend money and, have special assessments we might not always agree with, but how detrimental poor decision-making can ultimately be in the process. I think it's great advice to really evaluate associations more than a lot of people, typically might have thought previously. David, about, some of the trends out there, I think to the point where if something's on a vehicle, an HOA is stepping in, that's kind of new territory for a lot of people. Are you starting to see that come into play?
Well, it's not new in California. I mean, I'm calling you from San Diego, and we actually have 52,000 associations, which is a little more than your 48,000. And, they've been regulating political speech, what you put on the trucks. One of the ones I like the least is the associations that don't allow a worker to park his truck in the driveway. Where it's a plumbing vehicle, electrical truck, one that has, markings of the company on the side of the truck. You're not even allowed to park that in the driveway or on the street. So that's a real, talk about pain. That's across the board pain for a lot of people. So there's a lot of rules and regulations. And again, like I said, it's that board of directors that can pretty much do what they want. As long as they,
It's a good point. I appreciate it. Thank you for taking the time, David. Good insight.
You bet. And again, I think, do you have one more second?
Sure.
No. Yeah, well, the real problem, again, is I'd love people to read the article I wrote on the prevention plan, how to prevent another Champlain Towers type collapse. And it has to do with the maintenance of the community, not construction defect. That community was not maintained well, wasn't given a maintenance manual by the developer, and that's really what started all the problems at that community.
Website protect.com. And David Rauch, appreciate it. Good talking with you.